The maid enters the house. The wife and the man are kissing each other. The maid says, "What are you doing here?" The wife says, "You are just a lowly maid, so you have no right over such a handsome man." The man says, "Exactly. I am no longer interested in you." The maid says, "You are my husband. Don't do this to me." The wife says, "Break ties with her right now." The man says, "After knowing all this, consider the relationship over." The owner enters the house and says, "Who is this man?" The wife says, "He is the maid's husband. He came to take her because she has quit her job." The owner says, "Why are you leaving? If it's about the salary, we can increase it." The wife says, "Don't stop her. If she wants to leave, let her go." The owner says, "Stay for a few more days until we find a new maid." The maid says, "All right, I can stay for a few more days." The man and the maid leave. The next day, the wife comes and says, "I am eagerly waiting for my husband to hire a new maid so I can throw you out of this house." The maid says, "You should be thankful I didn't tell the owner about your affair." The wife says, "Keep your mouth shut or you'll be fired and no one in the city will give you a job." The maid says, "Yes, madam, I understand." The maid leaves. The wife hides her necklace in the maid's purse. A few minutes later, the owner says, "I've noticed tension between you two for a few days." The maid says, "Owner, your wife is no longer worthy of love." At that moment, the wife enters and says, "My necklace is missing, and surely the maid has stolen it." The maid says, "This is a false accusation." The wife retrieves the necklace from the maid's purse. The owner says, "Surely this is a misunderstanding." The maid is about to speak when the wife suddenly changes her tone and says, "No, there's no issue. It really was a misunderstanding. Everything is fine between us. You're getting late for the office." The owner leaves. The wife says, "I'll get rid of you very soon." A few minutes later, the wife and the man come in kissing each other. They go into the bedroom. The owner comes and says, "I came to get some documents I left in the bedroom." He enters the bedroom and says, "What is going on here? Isn't this the maid's husband?" The wife says, "We made a mistake. Forgive us." The owner says, "Leave before I come back." The owner goes to the maid and says, "Why didn't you tell me that your husband is having an affair with my wife?" The maid says, "They threatened me with serious consequences and forced me to stay silent." The owner leaves. The wife comes and says, "You ruined our plan by opening your mouth. Now you will suffer." At that moment, the wife's phone rings. She answers and says, "My husband just had a heart attack." The wife and the man leave. A few days later, the maid is at the owner's grave and says, "It's a shame you're no longer in this world. I didn't tell the truth at first. Please forgive me." A few minutes later, the wife and the man are kissing each other. The maid comes and says, "What is all this?" The man says, "Now I'm going to be a millionaire." The wife says, "I've made arrangements so you'll never get a job anywhere." They both leave. The next day, the wife and the man are in the lawyer's office. The wife says, "Read the will quickly because I am the sole heir." The lawyer says, "We're waiting for an important person. Just a moment." The maid enters and says, "Why was I called?" The wife says, "Mr. Lawyer, is this Maid the important person?" The man says, "Now just read the will quickly." The lawyer begins reading. "In full senses, I hereby declare that my wife will not get any share in my property because she is unfaithful. All my property and bank accounts shall be transferred to the maid." The wife says, "This can't be." She tears up the papers. The lawyer says, "Now nothing can be done. Legally, the maid is the rightful owner of everything." A few minutes later, the maid throws their luggage outside. Life is giving you the punishment for what you've done.